It's a beautiful day in my record room, a wonderful day in my record room. Could you be mine? Would you be mine? It's a music-filled day in my record room. Just sit right back and listen to that bass boom. Could you be mine? Won't you be mine? I've always wanted a subscriber just like you. I've always wanted to sit and talk with you. So let's make the most of this beautiful day. Let's sit right back, and I'd like to say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my subscriber? Could you be? Would you be? Won't you be my subscriber? Hello, subscribers.
Hey, good morning and welcome to another early morning show. My co-host Kat is not here today. He was prowling at the door. He's out looking for the Easter rabbit. So, hey kids, if you didn't get anything, well, blame Kat. He killed the Easter rabbit because that's kind of what he likes to do. There we go. So, some happy Easter, some happy Passover. If that's not your thing, then as my friend Tootin said, remember that Brian was crucified today. And for those that aren't sure what I just said, check out Life of Brian by Monty Python. Then you'll get it. Remember, there's always a bright side of life. All right, lot to do. First off, my youngest son popped the question and got engaged last night. So I'm pretty excited about that. Had his girlfriend for a long time. She is just absolutely outstanding and will do him good. So we actually may have one of our two boys, Eric, might get married. Well, there's a better chance of it. And it made me think, the worst engagement ever. My proposal has to be the worst. Maybe one of you have a worse story. If so, let me know. But it was back in it was the Christmas of 1981. I was working in Chicago at the time, and my wife was still in college, so she was flying home to Boston. So she had to go from Nebraska to Chicago to Boston. Now, in the 1980s, O'Hare was the busiest airport in the world. This was also the time where you would come into the airport and you could go right up to the gate and you could wait for them. So it's a madhouse. Well, Patty, she gets off the plane and I see her and I could just right away tell her she was pissed. Now, she's pure Irish, so when she gets pissed, there's no hiding it. There's no masking it. No, it's out there for the world to see. And when she's mad, it can only be the fault of one person, and that's my fault. No matter, I don't care, no matter what happened. I had nothing to do with whatever it was on that plane ride that had her pissed off, but oh my God, she came out. Now, I had prepared for this engagement because I will admit, I'm not Mr. Romance, okay? Not my deal. But I had this engagement ring, and I got one of those big Hershey Kisses. They had those way back in 1981. And so I unwrapped the foil on the top. You know, it has that little sticky part, you know, the little deal that sticks up at the very end of the Hershey Kiss. I took the engagement ring, put it down there, and sealed the foil. My wife loves Hershey Kisses. So I thought, oh, this is great. I'm sure I had something else, but I thought, this is going to be fantastic. What a great idea. So she comes off, and she just has this, you know, look in her eyes like, oh, wow. And so, you know, we're talking, goes, oh, here, I gave you a Hershey Kiss. Oh, well, yeah, great, thanks. I go, well, aren't you going to open and have a bite? Why do I want a bite? What do I need this for? And of course, you know, this is crowded, you know, it's Christmas time in O'Hare Airport. I go, well, I thought maybe you might be hungry. You know, you just might want to see. I am not hungry. I don't want to eat it. Oh, well, now, of course, I'm going, well, son of a bitch, this isn't working right. So let's go with plan B. Well, I'm hungry. I'd like to have a bite of it. Yeah, she's just so mad. She takes out this kiss, rips it open, and I hear ping, 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 ping on the floor in O'Hara through the legs. And I look at her, and I'm pretty mad now, and I go, well, if you want to marry me, I suggest you try to find that ring that just went running somewhere around here. Hey, well, gosh, that changed her mood right away, and she began to look. I didn't look. I was so pissed off. I didn't know. Was this a sign? Was I being given a sign that says, listen, I'm not sure about this, so I'm going to do everything I can to prevent you from getting engaged. It doesn't matter. I'm not well at picking up on signs whatsoever. I'm still not. Well, she found the ring, and so she said yes, and and my whole thought is I'm a good Swede. It takes me a long time to get pissed, but when I'm pissed, I'll stay mad for the next half a year. It's just like, great, fantastic. So yeah, there we go. It's just like it wasn't meant, but 37 years later, we're still married. So what can you say? Oh Lordy, yeah, so that's how it happened. But here we go. Look, I mean, just screwed up a whole bunch of time. A quick little kind of a complaint. I did Pledge Music. Last year in July, I went to Pledge Music, and I'd used them before, and I ordered a Matthew Sweet album. It was an autographed copy of Girlfriend that was coming out, supposed to be out in November. Didn't come out. Come January, sent them a note. They sent me some kind of note back, but it was like made by computer kind of thing. It's like, well, that doesn't answer anything. Well, I finally get this thing, said, hey, your order's coming. I get it in mail. It's a Matthew Sweet album. It's from 1977. It's not Girlfriend. It's not autographed. And I don't know anything about this sucker. So now I'm trying to get a hold of them, and they are next to impossible to get a hold of. I mean, Pledge Music. That's the last time I pledge. Last time I pledge. I liked them in the past. I've got some great autograph stuff. I've got test pressings from them. I've enjoyed them. But they have mucked me up so bad on this thing, and kind of ticked. But what are you going to do? I will just start this week off with a book, Chrissy Hine. Jeff Kempen gave me this as VCLT. You know, he knows my love for books on here. And it's Reckless, the story of a pretender. Great book, really fast read. What's interesting, it's around 300 pages. The first 200 spend it on her childhood, growing up, and before the pretenders. The last 100 pages are about the pretenders. You talk about someone that just should be dead, or just, you know, kind of, you know, one of those people, if you had, you know, you look out and go, well, that's a good-for-nothing person. They can't do anything. She couldn't hold a job. She tried to be a waitress, but her personality was just like, screw you if you want that. You know, drugs, drink, got in with, like, the Hells Angels in Cleveland. Had to leave to Europe because she felt if they found her, they would kill her. You know, it was spend time in France, England. Wanted to form a band, but yet couldn't get anything together. Really interesting. At the very end, you know, she basically says alcohol and drugs just weren't the way to go, but at the time it's the way it was. Really, really interesting book as she talks about her life in the Akron, Ohio area. So I really enjoyed this. Jeff, fantastic book. Great read. I already said fantastic once. All right, what we're playing today is this is it. It's, you can't see it because it's in black velvet, but it's Lou Reed and John Cale, and it's Songs for Drella. The reason why we're playing this is I had a Grail, and there it is. This came out in 1990, and it started in 1987 when Andy Warhol died, and at the funeral, an artist friend got with Cale and Reed, says, why don't you guys do a tribute? Well, these guys hadn't talked in years. 3 years later, though, they came up with this, Songs for Drella. Now, Drella was Andy's nickname that he did not like, and but his friends called him that. It was a combination of Dracula and Cinderella. So they produced this album, and it's in the first-person narrative, third-person commentary, first-person commentary, and then kind of like a third person looking in. So it's in a variety of different ways. they do a fabulous job going through Andy Warhol's life, and it's really, they hit the facts. Andy Warhol's a guy I've studied, I've read about. When I was age 5, I saw my first piece of Andy Warhol art, and I mean, it inspired me at age 5, no kidding, but it stuck in my mind. And I've been a lover of art since I was a little child. And it was this Andy Warhol. And it was either the Brillo or it was the Campbell soup can. I mean, something that simple. And here it is. And we're talking 64. And it meant so much to me. So this came out as some of the most beautiful music. It's incredible what they did with it. They were going to tour, but by the time they made this album, John Cale says, that's it. I can't never work with Lou Reed again. I mean, they hadn't written since 1968 when they did White Light. So Cale, forget it. They're gone. Well, in 1993, VU got back together again, and Cale began working with Reed. They had a couple concerts, and Cale and Reed said, that's it, we can never work together again. I don't know, they probably have gotten better once in a while. Now, you can't see it, but there is a picture of Andy Warhol Drello right there. So this is a promo copy. I had to go on eBay. I've looked and looked for years for this thing, but I've never been able to find it. And you know what? It's one of those records that I had to have. I mean, I just had to have this in my library. This came from a radio station. We got the Warner Brothers. This is the press release that came with it. And we have, well, actually, here's an air press release. So this gives you all the talking points about the album. Here's an actual press release. You got the inner sleeve with all the lyrics on here. It, for me, is the most incredible album in the world, and this thing means a ton to me. So I'm really excited to have that in vinyl finally. So that was a big deal, a real big deal. All right, let's roll.
I think images are worth repeating, images repeated from a painting. Images taken from a painting, from a photo worth reseeing. I love images worth repeating, project them upon the ceiling, multiply them with some screening, see them with a different feeling. Images, those images, those images.
A couple new channels I'm going to call out real quick. Andrew Godsell, I've been listening to him a lot. Mama Bear Vinyl, Cindy, she's been commenting on me and doing videos. And Cindy, I appreciate that. Always great to hear from you every week. Filthatmand. This guy's out of Sweden. And if you like classical, I mean, really, this guy gets into it. Prague gets into it deep. Really interesting. Seems like an extremely smart man. He has some great videos. Yeah, I'll put these down below because this is hard to say. Filthatmand, I believe. I've been listening a lot to Imagine Just Records, and that's Trey, Courtney, and their little baby Lennon. Really fun videos. They get into it, and Trey puts out a lot of great information that I always appreciate. As everybody knows, that's kind of what I like to do. There's also MF MERICK. MF MERICK does vinyl. Again, I'll put those down below. So some neat new channels. They're under 100 subs, but really been enjoying it. All right, so let's begin. This is something I didn't get on Record Store Day. So what happens if you don't get it on Record Store Day? Well, let's just fly down to Cincinnati, go to Plaid Room Records there, and pick one up yourself, dang it. That's how you do things. You can't get it, go to the source. And I had to go to Ohio for work. I knew I was flying down to Cincinnati. I kind of planned that after Record Store Day, just in case. Went to Plaid Room Records, and they had tons of these left, so really excited to get that thing. The very first thing I listened to from Record Store Day, though, and I showed this on a contest video, as the Twin Peaks 2 soundtrack. This was from the show in the very early 90s on Twin Peaks. This is from Season 2. You know, the Season 1 I have in vinyl and on CD, and it was my favorite CD. One of my all-time favorites. I played it over and over. This show meant everything. It's just one of those shows that grabbed my attention, I couldn't stop watching it for 2 seasons. So it comes with a nice little book in there which shows pictures of the different people from Twin Peaks. Great to have volume 2. I just absolutely, I have everything from Twin Peaks. All-time favorite show. Another record store, Dave. This was an important one. And I didn't know anything about this, but I just had read whatever it was, and I thought, I want to have that one. All of four Octonauts, maybe. He's from Iceland, okay? This guy was born in 1986, and he's a multi-instrumentalist. When he started, he was a hardcore drummer for a band called Fighting Shit, I believe, in Iceland. Then he formed a more of a techno type band. By 2012, he was doing film scores, and he did film scores for Hunger Games. And in 2015, he worked on a project on Chopin music, and he kind of reimagined Chopin. Well, last year he did a album called Remember. This is some other stuff from it, some different versions of it. Well, in this, what he did is he had this instrument that I think he invented called the Stratus. So he played a note on piano, and there were 2 other pianos there. When he played a note, these then automatically played 2 more notes. But you didn't know how those notes were going to go, so it wasn't planned. It was all done by computer. So it created different chords. It created different sounds that weren't expected. And this is a beautiful piece of music. You know, I like to think of it as new classical. It was such a wonderful listen. I could not have been happier with this, not knowing what I was getting. It also came with a 7-inch on there. So I'm going to buy some more of his stuff because I'm looking for a lot of these guys who do this, to me, what I call the new classical. And I'll play a snippet of that so you can listen. The other thing is, when I was at that Plaid Room Records and I was buying my Soul Slabs, I saw this, Buddhist Band 5. I did not know this was coming out, but then I don't know a lot of stuff's coming out. So this was just released. This is on a smoky vinyl. Buddhist Band started in 2007. I've talked about them 2 or 3 times on my channel as I began picking up their stuff last year. You know, it really started kind of as an Afro type sound and verged into 70s psychedelic. Best to describe this, so here you go. So here's your ingredients. You're going up to your spice cabinet. You're going to take some jazz and put in there. Then you're going to put in some deep funk. Oh, don't forget to sprinkle in some Afrobeat, some soul, and some heavy metal. What you get is a really dark groove with a lot of horns, and you know, we're talking baritone sax in that. So it really, you know, it has this. It is a dark groove, and it's all instrumental. But I totally love this band. They're out of Brooklyn, New York, Buddhist Band. So the brand new one came out, and I'm going to play a snippet of that too for you, so you can hear what that sounds like. recent find. This was an older record store day one, but I was in a shop there in Mount Pleasant, Bees Music, if you guys are watching from Bees Music. The Yardbirds, and this is Little Games. This came on this nice variant of splatter vinyl. This was the Yardbirds' fourth album, made in 1967. I like the artwork. They brought in, actually the critics didn't like this thing at all when it came out. What had happened is the record company brought in a guy called Mickey Most because they wanted to have some hits. And Mickey Most had worked with Donovan. He had worked with Herman's Hermits, and he made all these hits. So he comes in to help the Yardbirds have hits. This is the first album that Jimmy Page played solo, and you can start to hear him as he's starting to work toward Led Zeppelin. And one of the session players was John Paul Jones. How about that? They're all getting together here and getting going. So Mickey Most came in and he began trying to make hits. It was more like, hey, we go, we'll record it, got it one done, let's go on. Well, the Yardbirds had been expanding into different things, to longer songs, into more experimental, into more psychedelic, and that's all kind of being tossed out the window. You know, some of the songs are produced by other people instead of them. I don't, for me, it was a good album. Is it the best Yardbirds album? No, it's not. Is it the best cover art for a Yardbirds album? Yes, it is. But if you do enjoy the Yardbirds, I think you'll like this. If you like the bluesy Yardbird, this will probably disappoint you some on there, but it's a nice pickup. Had this one. I found this. I can't remember where I found this on my travels. The Buddy Guy. This is Buddy Guy. This was a live album. It's on Vanguard. It's a live album from 1967, but this is the 1987 reissue of it with Buddy Guy. And Buddy Guy's actual name was George. George Buddy Guy is his real name. And he was his parents were sharecroppers down in Louisiana, but in the very late 40s he moved up to Chicago, and when he was in Chicago he got to know Muddy Waters. Well, he still didn't have a contract, and then one time it was in 57 or 58, I believe. Actually, he moved to Chicago in the 40s. He moved to Chicago in 1957. Oh, bad facts. 58, he was in this contest with Otis Rush and Magic Sam, a guitar contest. And he won, and by winning, he got a record contract. Well, the problem is his record company didn't really know what to do with him. He was always playing sessions or playing as a sideman. Well, this album shows you what Buddy Guy can do. Now, there are stuff. He does Knock on Wood, You Give Me Fever. There's just some covers on here, but you can also hear him expanding. He does have a lot of horns on this, so this isn't like a straight, just normal, what you think, down and dirty blues. It's, has a little more of a punch of the horns. But it was a really nice listen to, and I enjoyed it. Buddy Guy. Here was one. This is a Steve Miller Band, Rock Love. I saw this. I'd never seen this Steve Miller Band album before on there, but it is his 6th album, just on Capitol. He did this in 1971. Now, when he went to do this, he had an issue. And the problem was his band had left him. He didn't have a band except for his bass player, Bobby Winkleman. Bobby Winkleman was his bass player. So they're kind of, well, what are we going to do? We need to have some players. So Bobby went and he brought in players from his old band. His old band was called Fruminous Bandersnatch. What a mouthful. That would kill the announcer, and I'm sure I said that wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting Fruminous Bandersnatch. Psychedelic music at its best. Well, actually, the name Fruminous Bandersnatch came from a book from C.S. Carroll called Jabberwocky. So that's where this totally weird name came from. But they came in and they played on this first half's live, the second half studio. It's blues. This thing, You know, Steve Miller really was a blues band at the start, and this thing has that very, very deep blues sound. A great listen to. Really enjoyed what I heard on this thing. So if you like, it's a very nice early Steve Miller band. Then he got things polished up, and then he took off into the solar system. He began to fly like an eagle shortly after this, but that was a nice listen. Here we go. Final couple. Maynard Ferguson. Nobody plays Maynard Ferguson. Nobody shows Maynard Ferguson. In the mid-70s, I was in high school in band, playing my cornet, as I talked about before. Maynard Ferguson was like God. You know, he was coming out with these fusion albums, and everybody was, oh, Maynard Ferguson, Maynard Ferguson. For me, it's like, you know, so what? Yeah, I just wasn't into all of that, but you know, they liked him. Maynard Ferguson, he was born in 1928 and died in 2006. He was born in Canada. Both parents were musicians here. Just showing those labels, if we can get them out there. Wine coat. Well, in the late 40s, or actually early 50s, he moved to the U.S. And he wanted to join the Stan Kenton band, but it just disbanded. So he went around kind of, you know, finding, you know, on pickup bands. Well, Sam Kenton got it together again, so he began in his backup, playing in Stan Kenton's big band. In the late 50s, Paramount hired him. And for Paramount, he actually played on 40. He was a session musician for a year, I believe, and he played as a session musician on 46 different movies. Well, he eventually got his big band going again. And so this is music from big band. But he was doing the big band in the late 50s, early 60s, and big band was falling apart. So eventually he had to break it up. No one was carrying anymore, and it cost a lot of money. So in 64, he came out with this, Maynard 6x6, and this is from the Maynard Ferguson Sextet. And that was his first one, non-big band album. It's kind of softer jazz. I wasn't a fan. The big band one here, this was pretty good. This thing did swing a little bit. I think this thing got a little sappy for me at times, but I thought I'd give it a try because just the history of Maynard Ferguson. You know, in the early 50s, he was considered the best at hitting high notes and maintaining it with a great clear sound. And even in the 70s, when you look at his big fusion stuff, what was Maynard Ferguson known for? Hitting ultra high notes. But unlike Miles Davis, who played less notes, Ferguson played tons of notes, you know, and really high on there. And it's something that kind of bothered me, but it's something I'm going to explore a little bit more. Am I a huge fan of Maynard Ferguson? No, but maybe I'm missing out on something, and the stuff's darn cheap. Wow, that was a lot. We went through Grail. I bashed Pledge music. Little record store day stuff. A lot of different things there. Cats out finding the Easter rabbit. So, hey, there we have it, folks. Thank you again for tuning in. I hope everyone has a great day with family and friends. I already got what I have to cook today. She likes when I make a ham. I make a damn fine ham, might I say. I really do. Hope you heard in the background, enjoyed the Lou Reed. I couldn't play any, well, I was able to play one snippet. Half the album was banned and half wasn't. There's a number of these I wanted to play some stuff. Can't play it. Buddy guy, can't play it. I get banned. I don't know, but hey, I've been trying to check. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. Thanks for subscribing. Thank you so much for the comments. I really, truly, that's kind of my favorite part, communicating with each of you guys. So hope you have a wonderful day today, and we'll talk to you next week. Got a couple contests I'll be doing too later.